Hello, welcome to this week's episode of NRL Market Watch. We're actually going beyond the NRL. We're going to International Rugby League. We're going to State of Origin Rugby League. But most importantly, we're going to do a lunch bet update. So in answer to your question off air, Gerard Condon from readingtheplay.com.au, my bloody oath, we're going to the lunch bet update. G'day, everyone. Hope you're having a great week. We're excited about this week of rep footy. In attendance today is the usual suspects. I'm talking about the number one seed up there at TopSport, Tristan Merlehan, and the aforementioned Gerard Condon from Reading the Play. How are we, gents?
Yeah, very good, very good. I love this week. We got a full week to focus on Origin. We've got some international footy as well, and we've got. I agree with Gerard. Let's not worry too much about the tally of the lunch bets, but what we should worry about is the tally of the charity account that's sitting in the coffers at the moment. We got it up to 8,200 now, sitting in there on the back of some very shrewd punting from primarily Jimmy and Gerard over the last while. But we got a multi back there with the Storm -8.5 and the Cowboys to win. They only just fell over the line there, the Cowboys, and then we got a refund with King's Trust. So that was one of King Trust's better performance in terms of the kitty. So we're building it up nicely.
Listen, I just think it's outstanding that after 18 plays, Jimmy's back to square at the lunch bet table. I mean, it's like playing roulette, and all of a sudden he's got it back to zero, and he's got a spring in his step. He thinks he's leading the board.
Have you not seen that movie, Untouchables? You keep on fighting until the fight is done. What did you say? You heard me, Capone. That's what we got. Now, wherever you're listening, make sure you subscribe, all right? Get your podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Wooshka, wherever. You can watch us on YouTube as well. I'm clearly sixth in line to the throne right now because I was fifth in line in our family. We got a dog during the course of the week, and now I'm outside doing this in the cold of a June winter's night in Sydney town. As you mentioned, the bank balance for Parcelon Clothing, $8,200. We've still got Queensland at the series win. What was that at $2.30? What are they now, Gerard?
What are they? $1.50, something like that?
40?
I think it might even be a little bit less. I think let me just bring that up right now. They are $1.40 to win the series, and yes, we are on it. $2.30. We got the bet twice as well, so certainly in a strong position there, which is really good to see.
Jimmy, did you want to jump in right now at $1.40? I mean, is this the right time for you to get on?
No. I still retain faith in the Blues. I'll get to that very shortly. Let's get to the lunch bets. Never in doubt, Manly +4.5 last week, so pretty comfortable watch for me. I tell you what, in all honesty, I was this close to sending a text message, 14 points up with about 13 minutes to go. I was this close to going, hey, boys, how you doing? That was the most nervous I've ever been for the last 3.5 minutes. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, we got home, Manly +4.5, never in doubt.
Well, about 10 minutes ago, I know somebody, a good close friend on social media who's a very avid Eagles supporter who was very confident during the week that they could win back at Brookvale. And about 10 minutes ago, he was absolutely sticking it to me and was talking about how he was telling everybody to get on the Eagles this week and whatever, and lo and behold, 3 tries. I mean, when they got the 2 and then knocked the ball on, I thought it was all over, but you just never know. And we've been saying for, 6 or 8 weeks now, Jimmy, that the Cowboys have just got this unity and this belief and this confidence that they can turn things and, more importantly, a preparedness to play with the football. And you need that in those sorts of scenarios, and they come from the clouds like they did. That's just an outstanding win.
I think with that, it's amazing how teams that are on that winning luck. It's like a batsman when they're out at the crease. If they're in form, they nick it and it goes through slips for 4. And if they're not, it goes straight to the keeper. Where we saw the Cowboys in form, they got their bit of luck and they managed to make it pay against the Seagulls, and then Canberra's obviously found a bit of form, and they look like they've given up their game against Newcastle, and Newcastle probably should have scored 4 tries in that last 10-minute window, and then the Raiders go down there and pinch the victory as well. So there were some exciting finishes there in the NRL over the course of the weekend, so hopefully we get something similar in Origin this week.
It was a cracker, wasn't it, that Canberra game? Like, third tackle, Hudson Young, who's been we've sung his praises a lot on this podcast. He's been near enough their best player. So physical. Kick on third tackle. It's like, Hudson. Oh, wow, what a great play to win the game. So fair play to him on that one. So, look, without further ado, a lunch bet score update. Gerard has played 14, won 8, lost 6 for a net score of +2. I've won 9, lost 9 after playing 18, net score of 0. Tristan, fair dinkum. Played 12, 3 wins, 9 losses, -6. Mate, you're almost nearly going to have to put a lunch ban on you. But
yeah.
I encourage you not to.
The only thing that I take a little bit of solace out of is that I think I'm still 1 win in front of the Titans for the course of the year. So that's one positive out of it at the moment.
Just on that, sporting our TopSport Titan shirts here. So just hoping they don't even get 2 points this week for the bye either. So that's disappointing.
Well, you weren't going to wear the Roosters one, were you?
I tell you what, I'm not giving up on them. They're the 6th best side in the league based on what we saw. That was a cracking game on Saturday night too, wasn't it? Like that was Game of the Year nominee. And how is it that Parramatta Eels can do that 5 days after turning in a horrid performance against the Bulldogs, who trumped that form too by smashing the West Tigers on Sunday afternoon. There you go. Hey, let's get
what about what we've got going on at the bottom of the table too, Jimmy? We'll get into it in more depth next week, but there's at least 4, possibly 5 teams all in contention for who ends up finishing at the bottom of the table. And you look at the draw for each of them, they're all about the same coming through the next 8 weeks. The Titans desperately need a win. They play the Knights next up off the back of this rep round. The Bulldogs all of a sudden 2 wins and jump up the table, and all of a sudden they've got a spring in their step. Lot to play out.
Yeah, don't worry. The Bulldogs are thinking if they can get the win next week, who they got? They've got a potentially. Anyway, they're already starting to talk top 8. The Bulldogs, they're not bad, are they? They just jumped straight into that. Let's start with the first rep game that's being played, not the under-19s, but the women's State of Origin game. It's going to be played down there at GIO Stadium at Canberra. Just looking through the teams, they're so strong, just incredible. Brigginshaw is there as captain, so she's always a key. Lenarduzzi was at the centre of that controversy last year to get the penalty for Queensland to win that game. Always a very popular medium to watch. Tristan, I think there was about 1 million people watching Women's State of Origin last year, which is great numbers. What about the prices? Tell me that the girls in blue are favourite.
They are. They're slight favourites, and it's actually the market's been very solid since we put it up. We opened it at $1.80 New South Wales, $2 Queensland, and 1.5 the line, and the market's still sitting there at that. There's been good support for both of those teams. So we haven't got our totals out yet. That'll be coming out in the next day or so. We have got our first try scorer market. So we've got all of that up. $11 the field. Yasmin Clydesdale, the shortest of the New South Welshmen. And then Emily Bass, Robinson and Upton all at $12 for Queensland. Emma Tonegata, going to be very exciting to see how she goes there. She's $13. So check all of that out. As I said, there'll be a stack of markets up on Thursday for that game. But yeah, it's going to be a very tight betting game, $182 at the moment.
Okay, what about 2 scorer try? Is there 2 scorer try?
That will be up. We're just waiting for the totals to come up there because that's very dependent on the under and over.
Yeah, right. Okay, you couldn't get enough on, obviously responsibly, Tamika Upton and Emma Tonegata for their respective teams, aren't they? They're just genuine try scorers. So looking forward to that one. Then we have the return on Saturday. This is international rugby league. We haven't seen that in 3 years. We've got the number 1 seed. We've got New Zealand up against the number 3 seed in Tonga. This is going to be an absolute cracker. They say there will be more Tongan support than Kiwi support at Mount Smart Stadium, but the incredible thing about it is, Tristan, they're putting up these two great sides, but the market has found a clear favourite. Yeah,
they both look very strong sides. Tonga's got a nice side. They're probably the halves are the only thing that has the question mark for me. New Zealand, they look really, really good all across the park, and that's why they have opened up very firm favourites. They're $1.25. Tonga $4. The line's 10 flat. It opened at 10.5. It came back into 10, and there's been a little bit of support for New Zealand at that 10 flat, 185 the minus, 195 the plus. But as you say, there's going to be a huge crowd there for Tonga. It's great to have international footy back. I just wonder whether on game day the money comes for the plus when people see the teams there and maybe can't split them as far as what the market has.
I think the money might end up going the other way. I'm keen on the Kiwis with this lineup, in particular their spine and the backup they have with Foran coming off the bench against Tonga. They're back at Mount Smart. Clearly it will be a sellout. It'll be a huge crowd. I mean, the atmosphere for these tests between these two in particular at Mount Smart is just outstanding. And the Tonga have played their last 3 times against New Zealand at Mount Smart with yet to come up with a win. Jimmy, I'm very surprised to see Katoni Staggs named at number 6 for Tonga. Amon at 7. They've saved Katoa, who's the young star out of the Panthers, lower grades, has been signed for next year for the Dolphins, and listed him at number 20. I'm sure he probably comes in on and off the bench and gets some game time, but I think that's the key. It's very inexperienced game management at 6 and 7, and Havili at 9 can do a job, but I think New Zealand too strong, especially the direction. I think they end up running away and winning quite comfortably.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that except for the emotion around the game. So even going to the fullback, we've got Tolatau Kola. He's played a handful of NRL games up against Joey Manu, who we know is a superstar in the centres. He's nearly that when he goes to fullback as well. Hiku, I think, has been a standout for the Warriors and now for the Cowboys. And as you mentioned, those halves, it's a clear difference, isn't it? Katoni Staggs, we just don't know what we're going to get there. Tolatau Amoni, it's a lot of pressure on a young guy. I understand why they don't play Katoa, and remember, Wayne Bennett is assisting with this team. So
yes,
we totally understand that with Dean Young, and they don't want to rush him in too much. And unfortunately, he won't be able to get a chance to play an NRL game before the World Cup, but maybe, in that tournament play, that's when Christian Wolf can get him in there and maybe giving some games, not under the pressure of a big international like this one. But the only thing that stops me from liking the -10 is the emotion around it. This is a strong side when Haumole Olakau'atu can't get a start in it. Your back rowers are Kalamatangi and Satili Tupanua. Olakau'atu to me is a more damaging player than both those guys. But for whatever reason, he comes from the bench. It'd be interesting to see how he goes coming from the bench as well too. But what might have been for New South Wales. But yeah, if I had to, I'll go Tonga plus the 10 because of all the emotion around the game.
Jimmy, would you like to move one way either on 18?
Well, mate, I'm happy to go the plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out.
Yeah, lunch plus 10. So what you're underestimating here, Gerard, is the impact of the Red Army when they turn up at Mount Smart Stadium. That I think you Taumalolo and Tokiaho running through the middle, and they're going to be forward pack.
That sounds a lot like the spiel you gave me 2 weeks about underestimating New South Wales playing at Homebush, and I think 16-10 ended up a nice result for one of us. But listen, I think Staggs and Amoni are going to see a lot of traffic. I also think both of them are questionable under pressure in defence. I think that's a big issue. Jimmy, lastly, I think the first time in history since their inception, the New Zealand Warriors have not supplied one of their players for the New Zealand Kiwi test team.
Wow. I know Tohu Harris was being spoken about, but he's just returning from that knee injury, and I don't think even Tohu is confident about the knee just yet.
And I know we all have amazing respect and empathy for what the Warriors have gone through, but I have to say I just really question over the last 18 months what they've done with their list, and I just think that it looks a basket case. They're heading home now. Let's hope that they can repair that and put it back together and get the right coach and get some of that younger development coming through. But it's an indictment on them that they don't have a current test player playing for their club side.
would Matt Lodge have been available if this game wasn't in New Zealand? Was that no? Okay, all right. Just wanted to clarify. The second game on Saturday is out at Campbelltown Stadium, the first of a double header there. It's Samoa taking on the Cook Islands. Unfortunately, Tristan, looking at this Samoa side, it just looks fully stacked, and this is very one way when it comes to betting markets.
It is, and the market's already moved very hard. It's difficult to assess where you open these markets in these sort of games, and obviously the head-to-head is 101 Samoa, Cook Islands 21, so there's not much activity on that. But we set the initial line at 31.5, and there was just a push immediately for the minus 31.5 out to 34.5, and the market has stayed there at 34. There's been a couple of punters still taking the plus at that 34.5. We've left it skewed. I sort of foresee this probably even getting higher than where it's sitting now at the 34.5. It just looks like it could be one-way traffic in this. Well, it certainly looks like it's going to be one-way traffic, and it's just a matter of how many for Samoa. They've got a very, very good side, very passionate side, and Cook Islands got a number of inexperienced players in their side.
Yeah, I think that game clearly is going to be all one way, and really hard to pin a number around that. But 34.5 probably starts 36.5. That's a hell of a big start in a test match, but they look like they will probably cover it. And then, Jimmy, a really interesting matchup in the last one with Papua New Guinea and Fiji. And Papua New Guinea have the advantage of some NRL players and past NRL players with some experience, but also then I think they've got about 7 players who have been playing in the Q Cup and been there for the last 2 years, and so bring quite a bit of experience of now playing under a bit more pressure at this level.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, this one. We'll get the market on this, and the line's going to be fascinating as well too, because I think it's changed a little bit, Tristan, from what it opened. Is that right?
Yeah, it certainly has. It opened at a flat 12. It's now into 10.5, a little bit short of the plus. 10.5, 185 the plus, 195 the minus, 390 PNG to win the game, and $1.26 Fiji. So certainly has been a push for PNG at that big line. And I agree with everything that Gerard has to say there. There's that, I think that team continuity has to count for plenty in a game like this, particularly when there is, you talk about the atmosphere for Tonga, but there's going to be atmosphere for every one of these teams that are playing international football after a long break. So I think PNG is going to be in good stead there. And have they got the cattle to match it with some of those strong Fijians? But the market is suggesting that they will, and the outcome will be a bit tighter than the market originally opened.
When in doubt, throw it to Viliami. See how he goes. I think, he's just a wrecking ball. He's an amazing player. What an athlete. So he is a danger for them on the edge. If they can handle him, which they probably can't because most NRL sides can't, then But I do give them a hope that the plus 10.5 might have even had a little investment when it was out at 12. So I'll be cheering on PNG. Of course, Sunday night, we see the rematch, game 2 of this State of Origin series after you mentioned that 16-10 victory for Queensland in game 1. That was played at Accor Stadium. This one at Optus Stadium. Tristan, you better tell us how the market opened, where it sits now, and then, Gerard, we're going to dive into these changes that the New South Wales side has made. Yeah,
so this market, we opened it straight after game 1, and we opened it at $1.85 New South Wales, $1.95 Queensland, and it stayed pretty solid to that betting throughout the course of the next couple of weeks. Even on Friday night, it was still $1.85 New South Wales, $1.95 Queensland, knowing that the teams are going to get announced on Sunday evening. Then on Friday, we obviously saw Ruben Cotter come out for the Maroons. He hurt himself in warm-up there. Jack Wyden was announced as being positive to COVID, so he came out. So we suspended the market, reassessed it, and then the teams got announced. And there's been a significant shift towards New South Wales, which there's some people that are suggesting maybe New South Wales are panicking. I don't know who wants to put their hand up to that, but not Jimmy. Jimmy, no. Well, the market is suggesting otherwise because it has moved significantly New South Wales' way after those changes, which is a little surprising to me. It's now $1.71 the Blues, $2.15 Maroons, 1.5 the line. It's 185 the minus, 195 the plus. This is a game I always, not a price point I always get nervous at because to me it seems like we're probably going to lay New South Wales at the head-to-head. And if this market gets to 2, which there's probably a chance it will, we'll probably lay Queensland at that +2, and then that one's going to be a very ugly number. So I don't enjoy watching those games, and I just have that sick feeling this is where it's going to end up. But 38.5 is the total points. We've got over 250 markets up already. The crew's going to get stuck in and have a heap more up over the next 48 hours. But I got all the big ones up there, so check them all out. Gerard, where's your thoughts in this game?
Well, if we just start with the market and how the market ended up there, I don't understand. So New South Wales in game one at Homebush, undeniable home ground advantage. The market had between them 4.5. Now, I'd suggest that the 4.5 was probably about what home ground advantage was worth in that game. So if we take that out, because we're no longer playing there, they then lose their best player on the night, and that was Whiten. That's got to at least be worth something. And then they've gone and made an absolute raft of changes, 7 or 8, or I don't know, Jimmy, is it 9 or 10?
No,
But seriously, it's 5 key changes. Well, I think it's actually 6 or 7 to the actual lineup of their starting 17. I can't, on numbers, have anything but Queensland going to a neutral ground at least -1.5, maybe 2.5. So I personally think the market's wrong. I understand why. We've got the New South Wales mafia media pumping up the tyres for the Blues. We've got a big state behind it. It just smells so much like the late 80s and the early 90s, where everybody wanted to tell you how good New South Wales were when they picked the team, but they kept losing. And again, I come back to the point I made 2 weeks ago, that the thing I like about Queensland is that they just keep picking players who are in form that turn up and work. And the changes that they've made, if we go through both teams, Queensland, I personally think, and I still have them off a similar number, because I think that Arrow was 18th man for game one. His form's been outstanding for the Rabbitohs for the last 4 weeks. He's got a really high work rate, very strong defensively. He'll start in the middle. It means that Carrigan, who was so successful with his impact role, coming on after about 20 minutes in the middle, that allows him to then do the same. Outside of that, Murray Tungalangi on the outside edge, on the left edge, he was probably unlucky not to get picked in game one. I actually think that he is a better defender than Xavier Coates, and that probably tightens up what they do there. Then we go through New South Wales. Some of these things I just don't understand. They're now going to play with 2 front rowers and not a rotation of 3. I understand that Jake is there, but Jake's now pushed up into number 10 and will play a different role. With those 3, as you suggested on radio today, Jimmy, that then means that you've got the best part of high work rate getting lumped onto those 3 guys in the middle. I think that pulls back some of what they're going to attempt to try and achieve in yardage. For the life of me, I don't understand how Campbell Gillard missed out. I thought he was good in game one, and his club form's been outstanding. Damien Cook then reverts to the bench. That would suggest to me that I respect Coruscant, and clearly he's linked with the Panthers. But if his link's so strong, he's going to play a lot of minutes. So what do you then do with Damien Cook, and when do you bring him in for the game? And does he then just become a bit of an impact player for maybe a 20-minute stint? That seems to start to waste a particular bench spot. And then Talakai, the same. I expect that Talakai is going to spend probably 70 minutes of the game on the bench watching on. If he does come on, does he play a middle role? I'd suggest that that's possibly a little bit of a risk. Other than that, he'll probably go to the left edge and Murray come into the middle. Defensively, I think is also a little bit of a risk. I think Crichton and Burton are a nice balance, but defensively, in particular with Crichton, I think there's a few issues there that will get targeted. It's very, very even. Cracking game, but very even.
Yeah. So some of those things I agree with, some of them I don't. All right. So here we go. Burton for Whiten, that's just an injury thing. You can't see past that. I don't think you lose anything there, right? You might even gain a little bit more versatility. You certainly gain a kicking game. Whether he gets a chance to use it or not, we have to wait and see. So from that point of view, I'm okay. I'd have preferred Coruscant coming from the bench. as opposed to, I thought Cook was superb in the first game, an 80-minute performance that was too much tackling because guess what? You're in the middle and that's what you have to do. But Coruscant, I think Coruscant has the ability to play more footy than Cookie, but Cookie can hurt you more with his running game. So that to me, I would have preferred Coruscant coming from the bench, but I'll live with him starting the game at hooker because of those combination things that you talked about. We also wonder about how much of these changes would have been made, which to me are reactionary, certainly some of them. And the other part of it is it's copycat. We're doing this because Queensland did that. We're doing this because they didn't have big middle forwards. They actually had Tino Fasua Malaawi and Ruben Cotter in the middle, and they were the faster middle forwards. So we're going to have faster middle forwards. So that to me is too reactionary. You know what your strengths are. Let's play to our strengths. I agree with you. Regan Campbell-Gillard was excellent for New South Wales. Don't stuff everyone up by taking Cameron Murray off the field when he's listed to play. Play him. Don't stuff everyone up when Junior Barlow is listed to play and you bring him off the bench and you start Regan Campbell-Gillard. Tell them what your 17 is going to be. Tell the 17 and then go out and play. That's my concern with New South Wales. They've gone too far the other way. And
Jimmy, just on that point, and I agree with you totally, if we look at the history of Origin and the really strong Origin teams, whether they were blue or whether they were maroon, they built through the course of the series to achieve the result. Whereas, and for mine, so far, it looks to me like Queensland started with a plan and they're heading down the same road of where they want to go toward game 3. Whereas New South Wales, so he either got it really wrong in game 1 or has he got it right in game 2? But to make all of these changes and be so reactionary just looks to me like it's not about building into a series and building that momentum. And I think that that's against New South Wales.
And the final one is Talakai. I don't understand the selection. And if he didn't have that game against Morgan Harper, does he even get a start? You know, like that. And that was Morgan Harper 7 days after COVID. So you know what?
What's Matheson done wrong?
Yeah, I don't. You know, I think Crichton's a better option at State of Origin level than Madison's a second phase player, and second phase doesn't happen in Origin. It's bum down, head up, just go hard and let your special players, your halves and your hookers and your fullback, let them create. I think that's where it comes. I think New South Wales have reacted rather than, as you say, Gerard, followed their path of what they believed in game 1. In saying that, they've still got enough talent in the side to really trouble this Queensland side. So if that's what we're talking about on field, and in essence, we've touched on this a little bit as well, Tristan, but off field, we said it first game. What are we now? 12, 13, 14 days into this Origin series. I'm still waiting for Billy Slater to have a misstep. He hasn't done it.
Well, and I think where you guys touched on there, where, you know, Freddie was playing those mind games, pulling people from the starting side onto the bench and vice versa. I would distinctly remember, and just as you say, what Billy's done, going into the dressing room, and they asked him before the game, they said, "Oh, what do you make of Freddie's moves here? You've obviously heard about him." And he goes, "Oh, that is what it is. You know, like they're two very similar players. It doesn't change our plan. They're completely focused on what they want to do." That he made some very brave selection calls, which he got exactly right in game 1, and he stuck with the virtually the same team where he could, and I think that's got to give your side confidence. And he seems very composed. He has not stepped a foot out of line. Now, it's easy to do that when you're in front and you're making the running, but let's not forget they were underdogs going into that game, and just the calmness and the aura about it didn't feel that way. So, you know, this is almost a little bit like you touched on before the first game, Gerard, where, you know, Wayne, after they lost game 2 a couple of years ago, they know they're going back to Suncorp here. And they would love to wrap the series up in game 2, but they know this is a 3-match series. They're 1-0 up. They need to win 1 game out of the next 2, and they're giving these guys the confidence to go ahead and do that. And I think he's just done an enormous job, and you know, very much surpassed my expectations of him as a coach. Been very impressed.
Oh, he's very impressive, and he's been very astute. The professionalism around what he's done with his preparation to date, you know, for mine, I think it's chalk and cheese between the two camps. And let's go back to last Sunday, Monday. So New South Wales, both teams go into camp last Sunday. New South Wales are in Sydney, stay overnight. Now, I'm sure both camps had a few drinks on Sunday night. Then New South Wales are onto a 5-hour commercial flight to Perth. Then they were into a 2.5-hour training session first up Tuesday morning. I'm sure that that's got to drain them a little bit, but they've got a week ahead of them. Yeah, Queensland have stayed in camp at on the Queensland Broadwater. They've had a light day of recovery on Monday, quiet walk through on Monday afternoon, and then slowly into their week, and then they've got a hired flight, a hired jet across there on Thursday afternoon. It just looks, the way the preparations have gone, I just think Queensland have been very settled. Jimmy, the key now is, where do we actually think the game might start to be played, and the points? And I would expect that we probably see a little bit more ruck speed. Whether the pressure and the focus on Klein loosens it up as much, I'm not so sure. I mean, Klein always seems to want to just run his own race and do his own thing, and I don't know that that's going to change a lot. But New South Wales, with the type of players that they've picked, they want to try and play a little quicker and get Luai and Cleary playing with a little bit more room. I think New South Wales looks stronger on their left edge. That's where they scored both tries in game one, Whiten and then Murray. And I think, again, Murray and Burton are going to be key targets on that edge. Whether they can get the same amount of room and ball to the right edge, which is where I think we'll see Tedesco wanting to pop up. And he was close to scoring a try and probably a little unlucky in being called back in game one. And that's certainly an edge, all back down the middle where he likes to hunt. Queensland, I think it'll just be more of the same. I think they'll want to play off the back of some of those big guys in the middle, keep it nice and tight. They favour their left edge, where I think they've got an advantage with Munster, with Ponga chiming in, and then Holmes outside him, Tungalangi on the outside edge. Ponga's also been very good, and if we look at the first and the third tries for Queensland, one was down the right edge off Ponga and one was down the left edge off Ponga. So a little bit of flexibility there, but I think it's a game of attack, and I think it's a game where there's a lot of points.
So the few things there, I wrote down 2 words with Queensland that I think sum up what Billy Slater is doing. And I think Billy Slater's performance in the box and in the preparation has surpassed Brad Fittler's very clearly. But that doesn't mean New South Wales won't win this game. And I'll highlight it from this point of view. So the 2 words that I wrote down, you mentioned one of them, settled. Queensland have been so settled. Here's our 17. That's what we're doing. We're running out there. And yet at the same time, during the course of that helter-skelter 80 minutes, a bloke in his first game of senior coaching is able to retain the flexibility. Now, I don't know whether it's coming from Jonathan Thurston or Cameron Smith or Josh Hannay or whoever it is that has been able to retain the flexibility to say, let's have a look at Ruben Cotter. How's Ruben going? 20-minute mark. He's going okay. We thought we'd replace him at the 25-minute mark. Okay, we get some breaks at just that time. He's going okay. Let's leave him out there. Next thing you know, at some stage during the second half, we get to put him on an edge for 10 minutes. He gets a second win. We play him for 80 minutes. Their plan was to play him for 25 minutes, but because of circumstances and because of their awareness of those circumstances, and you think about all that stuff that's happening in a coach's box that you've got to take in, and you're looking at one player and how they reacted to them, I think it's amazing. I really do. So, hats off to Queensland and Billy Slater on that one. In saying that, if you look at the front rowers, if you look at Payne Haas and Junior Barlow and Josh Papali'i and Lindsay Collins, who makes the most money on the open market? Those 4 players on the open market, the 2 New South Welshmen outstrip the 2 Queenslanders. And yet here we are, we're concerned about it. Oh dear, what's going to happen through the middle of the field? Remember, Barlow had a try disallowed, rightly, in that first game that changes the game completely right in the shadow of half time. And that's why I think New South Wales have done so many things that I don't think is right, but they can still win the game. And that's why.
But Jimmy, Queenslanders have been telling New South Wales people for 30 years now, it's not what your open market value is worth when it comes to Origin. And, the simple formula of picking guys that are in form and giving them simple jobs to try and do, and then building the unity around it, their record is undeniable.
Which one of the New South Wales players is out of form?
we'll come back to the opening point. Is it the team you would have picked?
So Talakai's in form. Talakai's the only one that I wouldn't have picked. Talakai, I would have put Regan Campbell-Gillard in, the 17, and then I would have started Coruscant. So beyond that, I'm happy. I'm happy with that 17.
Okay, so if there's a problem, then I think we know where the criticism may be come next Monday.
And that doesn't mean I'm right either, right? We still got to have this 80-minute game of footy to try and work it out. So there, look, what it does line up is a fascinating game. What was the score, Gerard, last time they played at Optus Stadium?
New South Wales won very comfortably. I think it was 36-6. So we had 42 points in the game. Yeah. Let's remember for the listeners that the weather and forecast in the 3 days leading up to Sunday afternoon is sunny and dry and clear. So we're going to end up with a very dry, fast track. The game will be Perth time. So what's that, 2 hours behind us? So it's going to be late afternoon, not evening. I think that also means that we've got less dew, and I'm sure in Perth that there's less of that than there is in the eastern states. So I'm looking for a nice dry surface, and I think that means that we're going to see lots of attack. And traditionally, two things traditionally happen in game two. One is the loser of game one has a very good record of winning and rebounding in game two. And so New South Wales are in the box seat in that regard. Number two is that we will see a lot more points. The combinations out of game one, spending a bit more time, learning from what happened in game one, what you should have done and what we want to do better. And let's also remember in game one in Sydney, I think both teams probably left a couple of tries out there late from combinations and a little bit of misplay that will be much better in game two. So I certainly think that we give 40 points a shake here, and there is a lot of attack, a very open game. I think it'll be a highlight game for the Origin series. I think it'll be an absolute ripper.
And Nathan Cleary can't play that. And when I say poorly, he didn't play poorly, but he just didn't have his influence on the game that we remember. He kicked South Sydney to death in the NRL Grand Final. We didn't see any of that. His kicking game was off.
The one thing that's key there, Jimmy, is when New South Wales weren't getting forward and weren't getting the quick play to ball that they wanted in game one, for a long part of the game in both the first half and then very noticeably in the second half, they played sideways, right? And they're going to need a little bit of room in this game. Now, I expect it opens up a bit more because it's going to be quick and we're going to see some more attack. But New South Wales have got to go forward before they start to try and play to the edges. If they're playing as much sideways as they did in game one, they're in big trouble.
Start Cameron Murray. Anyway, Tristan, I think we've got some three-leg multis that we'd like to get involved with here. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we should get involved, and because it seems like there's some very diverse opinions of this game already. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to be thrown up. So I might let you take it away, Jimmy.
All right. So New South Wales to win $1.71. Over 38.5, I agree with you, Gerard. I think more points scored, fast field, and because it's the second game and the series lends itself to that $1.90. Into Brian To'o, anytime try scorer. That left-hand side, Burton. We've seen what Luai to Burton to To'o with that extra pass. $2.11. So I reckon $4.84.
$4.84 exactly. So yeah, New South Wales into the overs into Brian To'o to score a try. So I'll pop the 100 on there at $4.84. And Gerard, where are you looking?
All right. Well, listen, I'm tipping Queensland. I'm still with them. I think that they can win. I've already backed them to win the series, so there's no need for me to double down here. I'll collect that either this week or after game three anyway. But I think in terms of a three-leg play, I am very keen that there is points. So my best for the game is certainly points over 38.5. So I'll go that as one leg. I'll throw in two alternate try scorers. I think both for New South Wales because I certainly do expect that they're going to be better. I think Matt Burton on that left edge, I think that's where a lot of their play is going to be. Either Murray or Burton, I think, are nice anchors there, but let's go with Burton. And I think the other one who will be looking to lead from the front, he was close to scoring a try in game one. Let's go Teddy Tedesco. So, Jimmy, I'll at least give you a couple of blues to cheer for any time try scorers. We'll go for the over total points, But I think Queensland for mine, 24-16 I'd written down.
24-16. So 11.65 that multi works out over 38.5. And you've given the New South Welshman 3 tries and you've picked 2 out of the 3 that are going to score, Gerard. So well done there. And I'm also a little bit, I'm going to go a similar way to you, Gerard. I think New South Wales are a chance of bouncing back in this game. So I'm certainly not going to take New South Wales to win, and I'm going to stay out of Queensland on this occasion. I'm going to go three players to score a try. I'm going to go Murray Tuilagi. I think he is going to have a massive game first up there for the Queenslanders. I'm going to throw in Valentine Holmes again for Queensland, and I'm going to go Teddy as well for New South Wales. So that gets it at $21.29. So they're going to be my 3 to score, 3 tries there in this match. Murray Tuilagi, Valentine Holmes, and James Tedesco at $21.29.
So you blokes are genuine weirdos, right? You Queenslanders. You both clearly are saying to me that New South Wales will win this game, that all the try scorers will come from New South Wales and there'll be overs points. But you cannot bring yourself to say that Queensland will lose. Genuine weirdos. Like, seriously, you're unbelievable, you mob. Fantastic.
Mate, I tried to lead you to the water in game 1 and you still couldn't drink. I'm trying to help you again. Anyway, maybe by game 3, well, that'll be in Brisbane. You'll probably be asleep on the lounge.
You know what, Brisbane, Queensland will be $1.90 to win the series. So there you go. Right, Tristan?
Still not 2.30, is it?
I would be very surprised if Queensland's $1.90 up there at Suncorp when we've got all of the Queenslanders baying for blood there in a few weeks' time. I think regardless, I think if that's actually a good question, Jimmy. So, what do we think will be the price if it is a series decider? And I'm very confident Queensland go into that game as favourite. I would suggest around about. I think it's almost flipped from where it is now. I think Queensland will be $1.70, New South will be $2.15, assuming what we got similar looking lineups to what we got tonight this weekend.
Yeah, I'd suggest somewhere around 175, and I think Tristan's probably setting that market too because he doesn't want me to do that walk.
Oh yeah, where was it? Sunshine Coast or Gold Coast?
No, Gold Coast.
Oh dear.
Well, I'm safe now after Queensland winning game 1 anyway.
Oh, all right, so there you go. That's the Queenslanders saying they think New South Wales can win, but they just can't say it. But that is going to be a classic. You can't wait. State of Origin number 2. Now, what about a racing bet over the course of the weekend, Gerard? How are we going with that?
Well, the first really good thing is, Jimmy, I scanned the fields and acceptances this afternoon, and King's Trust is not in. So that's one starting plus for us. Jimmy, you might know the form around this one. Let's go to Randwick, race 8, down the bottom, number 17, Battleton. Now, it's third emergency, so it needs 3 scratchings to start, but there's already 2 scratchings straight after acceptances. So I'm quietly confident it gets a run. Gee, its form, it's a Zoostar gelding with the Baker stable. The form has been outstanding all around group races. The latest was second behind that very smart Kiss Some that you do know a little bit about, Jimmy. $4 at the moment, $4.20. So Randwick, race 8, number 17, Battleton. I think it gets a lovely map, nice sit. Looks way too strong here for mine.
All right, I'm going to go to Randwick. What are we? Race 4. I'm trying to find it. Oh, hang on. That's why I'm very hard to find when I'm looking at Belmont. But anyway, we'll get around this. Race 4 on Saturday, race 4 at Randwick. And we're going number 6, Pokari Kari. Tristan opened at $3.90, now into $3.80. Very impressive last start in the provincials, one with a leg in the air. It will get there on the back of Bryce Hayes being a good trainer, lightly raced runner, and I think we can get ourselves a win there. Paying $3.80, Gerard. So here's what I'm going to do with my staking plan. So you might want to take a note on this. But anyway, on the nose. Thanks, Tristan.
So 100 by 0 on number 6, Pokari Kari. So we'll put that on. I got one as well, just to have a little sneaky each way kick at. It's a big meeting up here in Queensland at Eagle Farm, and again, we know ownership does improve horses. We might have tipped this horse once before, but I think this is the race it's been set for. The Tattersalls Cup, race 4, number 4, Seed of Power, barrier 3. It's been very consistent. Smart Meteor came out and won the Ipswich Cup last Saturday, and the form lines around Seed of Power in that one. $11. I just think it should be a touch shorter than what it is in the market. So I think a little each way bet. I'm going to go 40 by 60. That one's never failed us, Jimmy.
No, there we go. Look at that. It's really, really exciting. Now, what was the jockey report last night? Was this the one where the Seed of Power?
Well, I'll tell you a story about that. That was Accountability that ran the best 15th the jockey has ever ridden, and it subsequently came out and looked the winner on the turn in the next race when we were on it. Now, it did have a run last Saturday, which I very rightly did not tip.
Right.
And it ran the worst 15th that a jockey's ever been on. So there's the distinction between it. I think poor old Accountability may not be having too many more runs anymore. I think it might be going. It was a good horse a couple of carnivals ago, but I think might be due for the retirement home, unfortunately. So, but yeah, Seed of Power, still a 7-year-old, very young 7-year-old horse, I'm led to believe, and I think might be a chance this weekend.
Sounds like a very consistent, inconsistent horse. So Accountability. So there we go.
I must say, Tristan, for race 8, which is the Tats Tiara, if you can find a winner in that, you should get double the price. My goodness, there's what is there? Probably 18 or so runners in the likely final field. Yeah, the favoured runners have drawn very wide. That is one hell of a tough race.
Just to let you know, I'll be on air during the 80th minute of the State of Origin match, but I'll make sure I get some sort of video clip to you when New South Wales canter past the winning post, which sets up a great game 3 for State of Origin. Good on you, gentlemen. Enjoy your footy, the rep round this weekend. Enjoy your racing, and we'll do it all again next week.
Thanks, guys.
Fantastic.